Hey there, and welcome to session 3 of Vibrato Summer Camp. I'm thinking about our 3-year-old, soon to be 4-year-old, and we call him the tender tornado because his emotional energy is, I say it's seismic. He's a deeply feeling kid. So there are times when there has to be a firm no. No, you can't have a Rice Krispie treat before dinner, or no, you can't stand on this boulder that's on the side of a sheer 20-foot drop. So often when there's a firm no, Jude will get really upset, and you have to be a sturdy leader and be there for your kid while he's upset and let the storm pass, and then you move on. Then there are other times when a more collaborative relationship is needed, like toothbrush time at bedtime. Often at bedtime, I am a husk of a human being. I'm exhausted by the evening. I'm really a morning person. So by bedtime, my emotional and mental resources are very drained, and I just want the kid to brush his teeth. And so that's when I'm tired and I dig my heels in, and he's tired and he digs his heels in, and it can get really spicy up in there at toothbrush time. So when I really take the moment to stop and to stop, collaborate, and listen, things go a lot better. But when I get really harsh, demanding, and impatient, that's when things go really wrong and time gets wasted. We miss out on snuggles and story time, and everybody's exhausted and tired. By the way, if we haven't met, my name is Dan Callaway. I'm a singer and a teacher. I currently serve on the faculty of Boston Conservatory at Berkeley, and I also teach here at Dan Callaway Studio with one-on-one lessons and group classes online and in person. So the reason I told you that story is this is often how we try to work with our voice. If there is a tension or an inhibitor happening, we often get, like I get with Jude, and we dig our heels in and we get really stubborn and we tell the thing, it's either me or it's you. The thing is, any tension or intense engagement that you've got going on in your body, it could be a muscle group in your torso, it could be your masseter muscles, it could be your tongue, it could be pharyngeal constriction. All of these muscle engagements have a story, and they're all there because your brilliant body recruited them to help you survive through something in your life at one time. That is the most crucial thing to remember as you work on vocal coordination and organization. Everything that you encounter that feels like a roadblock has a story, and it's probably trying really hard to serve you and help you as you sing. It's just confused about its actual assignment. So let's commit to meeting our tensions and the things that seem to get in the way of free singing. Let's commit to meeting them with understanding. I mean, what if someone came up to you and you were having a really tough time and just said, just relax? Oh, thank you so much. Now I can really calm down, right? So our body is no different. When we talk to parts of ourselves with frustration and demand that a certain muscle group relax, that's working hard to engage to help you, that group of cells is not going to respond in an easy and free way. And that brings us to the center of this particular video. What do you do to manage a vibrato that is wider than you want it to be? This has been a vocal issue that I've struggled with. And as recently as a year ago, when I was singing a recital, this issue crept up and it took me a song or two to resolve it. So these things continue to return throughout our life, and we have to work with them with intention and gentleness. So if you go back and recall what I talked about in video number 1, I believe, in my experience, a large part of what creates vibrato is a softening of the vocal tract that allows the sound waves created by the vocal folds to then affect the tissues of the vocal tract. This causes an oscillation and pitch variation that we experience as singers and hear as listeners as a muscular release. I also used the image of 2 different kinds of cylinders. If you have a metal cylinder and there are waves of water passing through it, the strength of that metal will actually change the wave pattern of the water into more of a straight through flow. However, if you have a cylinder made out of a material like rubber, the waves of that water will then affect the movement of the cylinder. And so a rough analogy would be that the metal cylinder is more of what we experience in a straight tone production, and the rubber cylinder is more of what we're experiencing in a vibrato production. Now, when the waveform of the vibrato gets wider than we want, that usually means a larger muscle group has become involved with the vibration. One wide vibrato that I love to listen to is Brandi Carlile. She uses hers for a stylistic effect. It might be the way that she produces vibrato and she has parlayed that into her own style, but I love hearing it. But then there are times when the vibrato becomes wider than we want. And rather than it feeling like a muscular release, it feels like an inhibitor of communication and actually draws attention to itself rather than the communication of the story. So our attention goes to the vibrato rather than the storytelling. And this is when it can become unsatisfying and very frustrating. So the tool rests in this principle. I always say, if you're singing, you're moving. If you're singing, you're moving. Air has to be moving. Muscles have to be moving in a very slow, even, and managed way. Have you ever heard the phrase, hold a note? Of course you have. We say hold a note all the time. And what comes up in your mind when I say the word hold? To me, it is a static word. It is something that you keep. It's something that you hold still. Singing is an ever-moving stream. If you are focusing on what you think is happening that you hear, you're already in past tense. Singing is a meditative attention on the present vibration moving through you at this moment. The hold the note idea is really at the center of some of our vibrato issues when we're dealing with a wave that's wider than we want or a wave that's shorter than we want. For the wide wave, often the cause is in our torso. There will usually be a larger muscle group that is engaging and locking. And the joining up of that muscle engagement gets involved with the oscillation of the vibrato. So I'll do a little demonstration for you. I will just sing an oo vowel and I will let vibrato release, and then I will engage a large muscle group in my torso, and then you can see the effect. Here you go. So you would have heard the tone initiate, you would have heard the vibrato release, and then you would have heard the vibrato amplitude get wider. And then you would have heard the vibrato move back into a pitch relationship that was closer to the fundamental frequency. The wave wouldn't have been as wide. In that case, what I did was I closed and engaged my rib muscles, my intercostal muscles. So I sort of bared down on my ribs like I was trying to pick up something heavy. That is just one example of something that can engage in the torso. You have a whole group of abdominal muscles that can get up to all manner of shenanigans that are either helpful or not helpful. So let me help you focus on the tool that helps me most in this situation. You need to make sure that the way the muscles of your torso are moving air out is in a smooth and even fashion. One way to do this is to bring your attention to your navel. This is a good point of focus just to see what's going on as the air enters and leaves the thoracic cavity and how it affects the abdominal cavity. So, breathe out and breathe in. When I breathe out, my navel is going to come closer to my spine. When I breathe in, my navel and my spine come farther apart again. I breathe out, my navel comes closer to my spine. I breathe in, my navel comes farther out from the spine. Now, when I go to sing a tone, I will put my attention on my navel, slowly moving toward my spine. I'll inhale, navel out, and then I'll watch it move slowly as I sing. Ooh, got a bug on me. Yeah, I'll watch it slowly as I sing. Now, it's moving super slow, but I'm just watching it and observing and meditating on how slowly it moves back toward the spine. If you notice that parts of your torso don't want to release or allow movement, then that's when it's time to investigate different ways that you can help those muscles to stretch and become more malleable for you. There are lots of ways to do this, and it can be very simple. You can simply ask yourself, what muscle group seems tight? And then some very basic 8th grade health and PE class stretches can help these groups to loosen a little bit. If you're finding a hold in your rib cage, stretches just like a simple hangover side stretch, or clasping your hands behind your back and letting the front rib cage really open out. Those can be very helpful. If you're sensing a hold in your abdominal area, just getting on the floor and doing some light cobra action, just stretching the abdominals, side stretches as well there can really help to release these groups. And then go back and see what kind of freedom is coming in there. This can be very simple. You don't need advanced body work to let this flow a little more easily. I mean, advanced body work is very helpful, but a lot of this I figured out just through simple observation and tools of how the body works. So that is your main question to ask yourself if you're experiencing a vibrato that is wider than you want, or the wave is distracting from the storytelling and drawing attention to itself. Start to investigate the larger muscle groups in your torso. Notice what's holding on and start to find ways to release that so that there can be even movement that sends air through your vocal folds in a really gentle and energized way. This actually gives me 2 separate ideas for videos. I have a really simple way of practicing breath coordination that you can just do walking down the street. So I'll make a video on that, and also really straightforward ways that you can communicate with your own body so that you can meet all of these muscular engagements with understanding. And that's going to get everybody cooperating a lot faster. But work on that meditation of your navel, watching what's going on with its movement. Remember, it'll be a very slow movement. It's something that you actually observe more than make happen. And see if that starts to even things out. Remember to tell yourself, if you're singing, you're moving. If you're singing, you're moving. So we flow a note. We don't hold a note. That's, the good old nuns from The Sound of Music so wisely asked, how can you catch a cloud and pin it down? So it's the same with your voice. It's always moving. You can't pin it down. And when you try to pin it down, you become static and you stop flowing. So if any of this created more questions for you, you can always email me at dan@dancallaway.com, and you can check out more resources and helpful content on my website, dancallaway.com. And if you're here with me at the end of this video, how terrific to still be visiting together. And will you please hit that like button? And if you found this content helpful, go ahead and subscribe, because I'll be providing a lot of tools like this. And remember, there is objectively and scientifically only one you. And folks need to hear the story only you can sing. So go sing. Bye.